Okay, welcome to Perfecting Your Sales Conversations. We have three fantastic women from Zenagos, Karen, Mavis, and Monica. I do believe they'll do a quick introduction of them. I'll give you a little bit more information when they get started, but I just wanted to welcome you and welcome them. Thank you them for joining or for donating their time to present to our clients. It's a fantastic presentation, and it will be an hour well spent. But as we get started, I do want to give you a little bit of information about Boston Business Mentors, just in case you are new to our organization. Our goal is small business education, and we do that in many different ways through our workshops and webinars. You can find those on our website. We advertise those through our newsletter, and we also post them on social media. And we have a lot of fantastic topics coming up, just like this one. And we're adding new topics all the time. So please keep an eye out for those. We do have fantastic information on the website. We've been adding a lot of really great blogs, a couple podcasts. You're going to find also some templates and different things that you can download. There is no doubt the most important thing we do is our mentoring. Mentoring can mean different things to different businesses. A mentor can be a sounding board. They can be someone that helps you plan for your goals, helps you formulate a strategy for any challenges that you're facing. They can be a source for other resources. They can fill many roles for you. Our mentors are volunteers. They're fantastic, and they come to us with a variety of skills and experiences. And some of those experiences could be failures that they've learned from, even so that they can help you not make the same mistakes. So if you've never had a mentor, I strongly encourage you to consider it. The QR code there will connect you to the application form, but I'll also post it at the very end. So I will pull down my share, and I'm going to turn it over to Karen.
Thank you, Teresa, for that kind introduction. We're really excited to be here today. We're going to work on perfecting your sales conversations. I'm going to introduce the Zenagos team, but while I'm doing that, please let us know in the chat, what do you sell in your business and what do you find challenging about sales? So while you're doing that, I'm Karen Balderschwieler. I'm one of the four co-founders of Zenagos. We call ourselves the Zenagos experts. Stacy couldn't make it today, but Monica, Mavis, and I are all here. We have extensive sales experience. Monica's advised, Stacy advised branded companies, including Fidelity and Land's End. But she spent the last 2 decades helping a wide variety of small businesses to improve their marketing, sales, and technology. Monica is the master of the complex deal. She can put together combinations of private companies, nonprofits, even governments. As one example, she negotiated a ground lease for a $13 million public-private aviation project in North Carolina in the last couple of years. Mavis has sold massive e-commerce technology deals to companies like Walmart and Nestle, but her coolest sales experience was selling Lexus cars for the highest rated dealer in the US, the winner of the J.D. Power Dealer of Excellence Award. And I've also participated in selling 10-year, 8-figure enterprise sales deals to large institutions like University of Kansas, College of William and Mary. So we each have a lot of experience in big companies. But what we're most proud of is that we've started 17 small businesses between us. So each of us has been a solo entrepreneur at least once in our lives. And we know how hard it is to get a business off the ground, to just get one customer to pay you. So now at Zenagos, we're providing our blue chips experience to small businesses at a very affordable cost because we want others to have the help that we wish we'd had back then. Our clients include all kinds of businesses, including digital agencies, retail stores, even physicians. And what they have in common is that they're looking for a sounding board, someone who can help them stop overthinking or second guessing themselves so they can get their business to the next level. What's special about our model at Zenagos is that we do real-time consulting. So we're available 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. Monday through Friday, and our clients don't need to make an appointment. They just ask a question. We respond in as close to real time as we can. So we get questions when clients are in their car at the airport, while they're in the middle of a big negotiation. If it's something we need to discuss, we jump on Zoom, but we can have a deeper conversation if we need to. So that's a little bit about Xenagos. We're thrilled to have an opportunity to share with and learn from you today. So a few housekeeping items. First, please feel free to engage in the chat. I'm going to give you some questions to answer in there as we go. But don't be shy about entering questions. We're going to have a Q&A at the end. So, don't keep your questions to yourself. Make sure to ask them. Also, feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn. I'm going to put our profiles into the chat. When you do connect, just be sure to say that you were at the Boston Business Mentors webinar or the Sales Conversation webinar. That way we will accept your invitation. And we're going to give you a QR code at the end so you can download the summary slides. So you don't have to worry about taking screenshots or anything. It's on the slides. We'll give you those summary slides at the end. Sales conversations are a specialized type of pitching in which your goal is to move the prospective customer to the next step in the sales process. So to help you with that, our objectives today, by the end of the session, you're going to be able to open with impact, building rapport with your prospective customer. You're going to be able to zip it, showing confidence in your price and holding your ground. And you're going to be able to address customer objections effectively following the objection cycle and talk to customers with a little bit more confidence, which we can always use, all of us, a little more confidence selling. So how do we perfect our sales conversations? Let's break it down a little bit. So at Xenagos, we teach 8 key steps for a sales conversation. These steps are all in the PDF takeaway that I mentioned earlier that you get at the end. So the tips for selling takeaway that you get with the QR code. These 8 steps should flow naturally like a conversation. So we're going to break it down and give you some examples. We like to break this into steps because sometimes selling makes people nervous. It helps to see it as a process or a series of steps. And take heart, we know from working with our clients that anyone can get better at selling with practice. You can do this. The first 4 steps we call opening the sales conversation, and we're going to cover why each step is important and how to do it. And we'll give you a tip or 2 for succeeding in that step. And then finally, we're going to do a couple of demonstrations, one for a service and one for a product. Since Mavis is on our team and she used to sell cars, we always like to use car examples. All right, so 8 steps. Step 1, greeting, is important because people like a little get to know you time. They don't expect to be sold to immediately, and you never get a second chance to make a first impression. The goal of the greeting is to be warm and try to build some connection with a customer. You want to break the ice. You want to get over the awkwardness of meeting somebody new and relax a little bit. The key tip here is be present. Pay attention to your audience and adjust to what you observe. So this is called reading the room. For example, is it a formal meeting or an informal meeting? Or is there a cultural preference that you need to take into account? In some cultures, people really like to have a lot of small talk before they get into the serious talk. If you're not sure, then follow the customer's lead. So try to reflect their body language and their speech patterns. So for example, if they're talking casually and they want to talk about the weather and their kids, go ahead and do that. If they're talking quickly and they want to get right down to business, go with that instead. So go at the customer's speed. So how to engage is influenced by the medium of communication. If you're face-to-face, make eye contact, nod as you listen, show interest by asking questions. If you're on the phone, keep your voice light and bright. Your expression and demeanor are going to show up in your voice. Salespeople who work in call centers often put a mirror in front of them in their cube so they can see their expression. They make sure that they're smiling because your smile actually comes across over the phone, even if people can't see your face. If you're in a video conference like Zoom, Google Meet, Microsoft Teams, WebEx, make sure that you're looking into the camera. So place anything you're reading high and in the center of the screen so that you're not looking off to the side. So check your self view from time to time to make sure you're smiling and looking engaged and present. Another important tip is to practice your transitions into step 2 so that it doesn't feel awkward when you do get down to business. So we call this transition from small talk to sales talk a bridge. So here's some suggestions for bridges. How may I help you today? How would you like to use our time today? What are you looking for today? What are you hoping to find today? What would you like to achieve today? And one of Monica's favorites, what's on your radar today? Be yourself, but you'll notice that these bridges are usually questions. By asking a question, you're basically asking the prospect's permission to move on to business. You'll see this as a theme a few times throughout our sales conversation process, asking for permission. We call this seeking a soft confirmation. It lets your customer feel in charge of the pace of the conversation instead of feeling pushed. So let's do a quick demo now so that you can see how step one looks in practice. So Mavis is going to play the role of a car salesperson, of course, and Monica is going to be a prospect who's just walked into the dealership. Mavis, take it away.
Hi, I'm Mavis. Welcome to the dealership.
Hi, I'm Monica.
So, my prospect hasn't given me any obvious signals yet, so I'll start with a little small talk. It's crazy raining out there today. It must have been quite a trip over here.
Oh, I don't live far from here, but I went through a lot of puddles, so I don't have a lot of time. I just want some quick information.
So, I'm going to take the hint. She wants to get right down to business. This happens a lot at a car dealership because buyers are nervous about being taken advantage of or getting a hard sell. So, I'm going to transition quickly. Oh, of course. How can I be of service?
So
Well,
Mavis read the room and she reflected the prospect's urgency to get started. So she used this quick and easy bridge. How can I be of service? So now she's ready to move on to the next step. So step two, we want to fully understand that customer's needs. So this is where you're going to begin to build KLT, know, like, trust with your prospective customer. This is also your big chance to learn the information that's going to help you win the sale. The goal while you're listening is to discover what specific characteristics of your offering best apply to what this customer needs. So it's much easier to position your offering effectively if you really understand the customer's problem. If you know what problem the customer is trying to solve, then instead of talking about all 12 features of your offering, you only talk about the two or three that the customer really cares about. If you talk about every feature, your prospect isn't going to feel like you're listening to them. If you only talk about what she cares about, then she knows that you cared to listen. So that's the beginning of trust. And the key tip here is don't rush. Step two is a part of the sales process where small business owners make the most and the biggest mistakes. We small business owners have a tendency to talk too much, too fast, and too soon. We think that our offering is awesome and we really want to close the deal, and we just start spewing information. So we don't listen enough. And this happens especially when we're nervous. But good listeners are thought to be the best conversationalists because people like to talk about themselves. So your prospect's going to be the happiest if they do most of the talking. And if you can keep them talking, you'll learn what they really value. And that's powerful. If you talk too much, you're not even going to hear what they care about. And if you don't hear them, you definitely can't speak to their issues. And that may keep you from winning the business. So once again, to wrap up step two, and this is critical, don't jump ahead and start talking about your solution. The best salespeople take time to build a relationship. And the only way you're going to figure out how to close the deal with this prospect is if you listen first and try to connect. So stop talking and listen. Sometimes the best information comes right after an uncomfortably long pause. So try to forget that you're selling something and focus on learning something about the other person. So let's see how Mavis handles step two in our car sales demo. Mavis?
So, Monica wanted to get right down to business, so I'm going to be direct in exploring her needs. Great, Monica. I totally understand if you're short on time. So, please tell me what questions you have and what information you need today.
Well, I need a good SUV or maybe a minivan.
We have a great selection of both. Will you be hauling a lot of people or a lot of cargo?
Just my two dogs. I have these two crates and I can't fit them both in my car. So I really want my dogs to be safe.
Of course. I feel the same about my dog. Let me ask, what are you driving now and how big are those crates?
I have a small SUV and each crate is about 36 inches long.
So Mavis has learned something really valuable here. Not every person who's buying a car is worried about how you fit two large dog crates into it. This is actually really going to help Mavis focus her sales conversation. So if you ask Mavis or Monica, both of whom are superior salespeople, they will tell you that the questions that they ask are very intentional. They don't just ask any question. During this phase of the sales conversation, they want to learn which features of the offering are most important to the prospect. So you don't just ask a ton of questions. Doing that would make the prospect feel like they're being interrogated. Instead, great salespeople spend time on their own beforehand, figuring out what questions they can ask to determine what the customer needs. So you start with what customers commonly say to you, and you work backward from there. So for example, in our demo, in our demo, Mavis asked what kinds, whether she wanted to haul a lot of people or a lot of cargo. So what did the prospect say to her? The prospect said, I need a good-sized SUV or maybe a minivan. So Mavis would spend time on her own thinking, what questions would I usually get asked? And then what features are relevant to that question? So Mavis thought about it, that SUVs are more flexible for hauling cargo and minivans have more safety features. So the question she asked was, will you be hauling a lot of people or a lot of cargo? And based on the answer, she knows whether to talk about an SUV or a minivan. So when Monica said that she was worried about her dogs, Mavis filed that kind of under people, since the dogs were clearly members of her family. So she started about that minivan, which is focused on people. So let's come up with one more question. In row 2, Mavis notes that prospects often say, I'm interested in getting good gas mileage. Maybe I'd like an EV or a hybrid SUV. So what features are relevant? Well, electric vehicles and hybrids both get good mileage, but EVs have a more limited range. So the question you could ask would be like, do you take a lot of long trips or do you mostly commute? And then based on the answer to that, you'd know whether to talk more about an EV or more about the hybrid SUV. So don't worry, this is all in the free PDF takeaway. If you download that, you can take your time looking at this slide. Anyhow, once you've asked some great questions so you know what the customer needs relative to the products that you have, then you're ready to start about what you have to offer. So in step 3, we're going to demonstrate the offering. Now this is important because this is your opportunity to explain your offering such that it addresses the exact need or pain that the customer has described to you. The goal is to show the customer the value that you offer, but specifically the value that meets their needs. Remember, we don't want to talk about all 12 features. We only want to talk about the ones that the customer has expressed an interest in. If you don't know what features you should be emphasizing, then you didn't ask the right questions in step 2, and you should continue the conversation until you understand more what features the prospect really cares about. Remember, nobody wants to hear you talk on and on about a bunch of features that don't matter to them. So the next level sales tip here is, after your demo, ask for a soft confirmation from the customer that what you described meets their needs. This can be really quick and simple. So you could just ask, how does that sound? This is one of those moments that I talked about where you invite the customer to control the conversation. Think of this confirmation as an escape hatch. If you're on the wrong track, it gives the customer a chance to tell you so that you can make a quick course correction. More examples of these kinds of confirming phrases. Do you think that will address your need? Have we found a good solution for you? Do you think this blank, whatever you're offering, will work for you? Also, listen for possible objections. So what does a customer say or do that might keep them from buying from you? Everything you learn is valuable in a sales conversation. So let's see this in action. Back to our demo. So Mavis has just learned that Monica cares about fitting dog crates into her car. So how is Mavis going to tailor her demonstration to meet Monica's needs? Mavis.
Okay, Monica, well, why don't we start with a minivan? We have a model where you can remove the second row of seats, as well as the third row if you need to. You could fit both crates in there side by side and strap them down really securely. Those dogs would be really safe. Now, and don't forget, I need to finish up by confirming that my solution meets her needs. So how does that sound?
Great. Yes. So let's start by looking at the minivan.
Let me show you some of the features of this minivan. Let's start in the back where you would put the dog crates. So do you think you want them right behind you here in the second row, or would you want them further back?
If possible, I'd like to have them right by me. Then I can give them snacks for long trips.
Perfect. So I think that's also the safest place for them too, since it's inside the passenger compartment. So let me show you how we can remove these 2 seats in the second row, and you can either stow them by pulling this lever, or you can remove them entirely. See how they move right into the floor and they create a nice flat surface for the crates?
Wow, that's really nice. Simple and straightforward.
Yes, and you'd still have room for cargo or passengers, depending on whether you fold the third row down or keep it up. The dogs and any passengers will have easy access with the sliding doors. So now I need to confirm again to see if Monica thinks this is a good solution to her problem. So do you think this will work for you?
Yes, I like this solution because I'll have easy access to the dogs at all times.
Perfect. So how about if we take it for a test drive and I can show you some of the other cool features of the vehicle?
Notice that Mavis's demonstration of Monica focuses on what Monica cares about. Mavis doesn't cover every feature of the car. And don't forget to ask for that soft confirmation. That tip is golden. Now, the last step of opening is step 4, state the price. It's important to state the price in a clear and straightforward manner because it shows confidence in the value that you offer. The goal is to say it clearly and stand firm. Now, it says zip it because it's really tempting to say your price, get some silence from the customer, and then start rambling on, apologizing for the price or justifying the price, or worse, discounting the price for no reason. We call this negotiating against yourself. The key tip is this: after you say the price, be quiet, zip it, and wait until the customer responds. You may need to wait a little while. That's okay. Silence is golden. Live with that silence. This may take some practice, but I can't tell you how many millions of dollars we have saved our clients with this one small piece of advice. If you keep talking, you're just negotiating against yourself. So let's see how Mavis handles this step with Monica. Mavis.
So let's assume I showed Monica the minivan and we went out for the test drive. Now we're come back to the dealership and I'm going to start by confirming that the car she drove will meet her needs. I'm looking for a firmer confirmation this time. So what did you think of the vehicle, Monica? Do you think it will meet your needs?
Yes, I really like it a lot. I think it would be great for the dogs.
Great. Did you like the trim level you drove and the color? The next level up in trim has leather, but it is otherwise the same.
Well, I don't need leather. And yes, I prefer the pearl color that we drove.
So now I've confirmed we've met Monica's needs. Now I'm going to state the price and I'm going to zip it. Excellent. That's great news. I've just checked our inventory and that car is in stock. The MSRP on that vehicle is $45,000.
Oh, hmm.
So again, we have a little uncomfortable silence, and I know she doesn't like the price, but I'm just going to smile and wait.
Well, how much is the next trim down?
The next trim level down is 42,500, but it's missing that digital mirror that you really liked.
Ah, okay. So let's go with the same one I drove.
So sometimes a customer will accept the price, like Monica did here, because they really want the value. So she really wants that digital mirror. But other times they'll raise objections, which takes us into the second half of the sales conversation, which we call closing. So those are the 4 steps for opening a sale. Now, I know right now you're trying to imagine yourself just zipping it after stating the price. Like weird, right? In a minute, we're going to do a little debrief on this opening process. But before we do that, just one caveat. So this process for sales conversations is a technique for salespeople who are working on their skills and confidence, but it's just a starting point. This process is not a set of hard rules. It's just a launching pad. So adapt it to your situation. So maybe you don't really have a price per se. Maybe you send a proposal. The concept still applies. Walk the client through the proposal, but don't give a dissertation about why the price is what it is or go through your whole pitch all over again. Once you get confident at selling and you know how sales conversations go for your particular offerings, you're going to naturally depart from this process and make it your own technique. And that's the way it should be. Every salesperson develops a unique style for every offering. And when you find yourself going off script, take it as a sign that you're getting really confident and that that's something to celebrate. Okay, that said, let's go to the chat and do a quick debrief of the first 4 steps in the sales process. So we're going to have a little quiz to cement these steps. All right, so here's quiz question number 1 in the chat. Which of the following is not one of the 4 steps in opening a conversation? Right, overcoming objections. The objections are part of closing. You have to listen for them when you're opening, but they're not part of opening a sales conversation. All right, if you're not sure how to engage with a new prospect, what's the best sales strategy? That's That's right. Reflect back, reflect their behavior. All right, I gave you some letters this time. Which of the following is a good bridge from sales talk to small talk? That's right, A. The others are all questions that are going to extend the small talk. So there's nothing wrong with extending the small talk, but if you want to bridge, A is the best choice. And last one, why is it important to understand the customer's needs? These are all good answers. So you're right, all the above. I think B is probably the best answer, that you're going to learn which features the customer cares about, which is, if you're trying to commit a sale, you're trying to get a commitment, then that's going to be the best one for your purposes. But they're all good answers. So a little bit of a trick question. All right. So anything that you want to remember from opening a sale, what do you think is the most important tip for you from that first part of the webinar? Nobody's ready to commit to a tip yet. Most people like Zip It. Zip It's pretty popular. All right, let's get into the second half of the sales process. Now we're going to talk about closing. Now that you've opened your sales conversation effectively, it's time to close the sale. So not everyone has to close. There are lots of sales situations where one person in the organization opens the sale and somebody else closes the sale. However, it's good to know the entire sales process, even if closing isn't part of your job. Setting the stage. So in step 4, we stated the price and we waited. We waited quietly and confidently for the customer to make the next move. This usually means listening for objections and addressing them, which is step 5. So an objection is anything that a potential customer says or thinks that might keep them from buying from you. When you get objections, it's not a bad sign. It's not a reason to get defensive. It's just information. This is a natural and normal part of the selling process. When you get an objection, your customer's telling you you have a little more selling work to do. So in preparation for the next section, let's take a minute to reflect. What objections do you get when you're selling your offering? Go ahead and put those in the chat. Price is by far the most common objection, right? Okay, we're feeling shy today. They just object to the price. Do they ever say they like it, but they don't need it now? Do they ever say, there's a competitor that I like better? Right? Think about what things they say that say that they're not quite ready to buy. So the goal in this step is to identify what type of objection is it, and then address it with an appropriate response. Sometimes they don't say anything. Good point.
That's right.
The ghost objection. So the key tip here is you want to listen well and hear the common objections for your offering. And every time you get a new objection, your answer might not be perfect, because that's completely normal because you never thought about it before. But when you do get a new objection, write it down. When you get time, think about the best way to respond to it. And then practice your responses until you figure out what works to address each objection. So you'll know that you've addressed it when the customer is willing to move forward in the conversation. So more about that in a minute. So one quick thing, we don't have time in today's session to really dig into the details of how to identify and address customer objections. So I'm going to put a link in the chat to a really awesome ebook that our clients just love. It's free. To get it, you just click on this link, enter an email address, and we'll send it to you. Addressing customer objections can become a cycle. So when you get that ebook, it'll kind of tell you what are the types of objections and then what's the best way to answer each type. But whatever the type of objection, it follows this cycle. The prospect raises an objection. You identify yourself, what's that objection type? You ask some questions maybe to confirm your understanding so you're sure you have the right objection. And then you address the objection with the best response and confirm that you've addressed it. So this confirmation step is the same kind of soft confirmation that we talked about before. Like, how does that sound? The customer confirms that you've already addressed the objection. You are ready to ask for commitment. When you get commitment, you're done with the objection cycle and you're ready to move on and close the sale. However, really often when you ask for commitment, the customer will raise a new objection. That's okay. It's a normal part of the selling process. Don't get frustrated. Just do the objection cycle again. You identify the objection type, address it, confirm you've addressed it, ask for commitment again. You keep doing this within reason and nicely, of course, until the customer has run out of objections and they're ready to commit. Now, sometimes you run into an objection you just can't address or resolve right then. And when that happens, you jump off the cycle and schedule a follow-up. So you set up a follow-up time or a date when you're going to have the information or the people present to resolve the objection. So sometimes they'll say, I can't make that decision without my partner, or my boss has to confirm this, or something like that. So you set up a follow-up. Now, after you follow up at that future date and time, then you'll be able to continue with the rest of the sales process. All right, now let's see how Mavis handles Monica's objections. Mavis.
So I've addressed Monica's price objection, and I've confirmed which model she wants. And now I'm going to ask for commitment. So I can get that paperwork started right now and make sure you get that Pearl minivan.
Well, hang on. I like the car, but I think the dealer down the road also has a minivan model that I was thinking about checking out.
Monica has raised another objection, so I need to address this one. She wants to shop around, and it's in my best interest to keep her focused on our model. I also know from listening to her that safety for her dogs is one of her primary concerns. Sure, Monica, I completely understand. Let me show you the most recent Car and Driver and Consumer Reports reviews on minivans. It compares the top models of the minivans against one another, and you'll see that ours comes in number one for safety and reliability. It scores a 9.5, which beats all other minivan models.
I see. Well, this does look like the best option for me.
I have addressed the objection and received a soft confirmation from her that it's been addressed. Now I'm going to ask for commitment again. Perfect. So I'm going to write up the order now. How will you be paying for the vehicle? Cash, or will you be financing today?
So this dialogue shows you the rhythm of the objection cycle. Monica asked a question about the price. Mavis identified it as a price objection. She addressed it by saying that Monica could pay less if you chose the next trim level down, but then she'd lose a digital mirror. Monica confirmed that she wanted the more expensive model in the pearl color with a digital mirror. So Mavis asked for commitment by saying she could get the paperwork started. But then Monica raised a new objection, saying she wanted to check out a minivan at another dealer. That restarted the objection cycle. So Mavis identified this new objection as a competitive options objection. She addressed it by showing Monica reviews from Car and Driver that showed that her minivan was better than all the other models. Mavis emphasized safety, knowing that Monica really cared about her dogs being safe. Mavis got confirmation that this minivan looked like the best option, and she asked for commitment again. So after addressing each objection, you ask for commitment. That's step 6. Many small business owners have trouble with this step. This step is important because if you want the deal, you do have to ask for it. The goal of this step is to clearly ask for commitment. This could be the next step, asking for a meeting or something else, anything that moves the sale along. The easiest way for commitment, to ask for commitment, is what we call presumptive close or the assumptive close. You just assume that the customer is ready to buy, and you say something that moves them forward toward commitment. So here's some examples of presumptive close phrases. Shall I start the paperwork? Will you be using cash or charge? Can I sign you up to start on Monday? May I send you a formal proposal with all the numbers we just discussed? As with stating the price, once you ask, be quiet and wait for the customer to answer you. Don't revisit the numbers. Don't go on and on describing what's going to be in your proposal. Practice different ways of asking for commitment and try them out to see which ones work best for you. Just this last weekend, two little Girl Scouts showed up at my front door and they said they have Girl Scout cookies to sell. And I said, okay, I'll buy 2 boxes. And the Girl Scout says to me, that's $12. We accept cash and Venmo. I thought somebody's teaching you sales skills. This is awesome. The key tip here is be patient. Be ready for the customer to raise new objections. Take each objection as an opportunity to build warmth and trust. Don't sag your shoulders and be like, oh, another objection, right? This is a conversation. When you get a new objection, you know what to do. Restart that objection cycle. So let's see how Mavis handles this step with Monica. Mavis.
So I've addressed the most recent objection. I received confirmation. Now I'm going to ask for commitment again. Perfect. So I'm going to write up the order now. How will you be paying for the vehicle, with cash, or will you be financing today?
Oh, I'm going to be financing. It's going to be along with my partner as a co-signer. But he's in London this week.
So I asked for commitment, but she just gave me a big surprise. We need another decision maker to complete this deal. And I need to figure out if I really need to have a commitment from both buyers. Okay, Monica, no problem. So it's 11 a.m. here on the East Coast. It's probably 4 p.m. in the UK right now. Do you think we can get him on the phone and make sure he's on board with co-signing for the purchase?
Oh, okay, sure. I'll call him. Hi, it's me. I'm at the dealer and I chose a car. I need you to co-sign. Can you talk to the salesperson? Her name is Mavis. Okay, here. Mavis, his name is Will.
Great. So we've reached the second buyer and I need to ask him for commitment. So I pick up the phone. Hey, Will, how are you today? Sorry to bother you on your trip. Just wanted to confirm that you're on board with co-signing for a loan for Monica for a brand new minivan. You are? Great. So I'm going to send you some paperwork that needs to be signed. Will you be able to do that today and send it back to me? Great. You'll get it within the next 2 hours. Thanks, Will. So I have 2 buyers and they both have committed to buying the minivan. Phew.
So Mavis asked for commitment. She found out there was another hurdle to overcome, another objection, because there's another decision maker. So she went through the objection cycle again and got commitment from that second person. Once you get commitment, your sales conversation has been a success. We have a couple more quick steps as we wrap up our sales process. One is that many times you can't close a deal with a single meeting, so you have to schedule a follow-up. In fact, much of sales is good follow-up, and that's step 7. This is important because you need to keep the prospect moving down the funnel. People drop out in every stage of the funnel, even after they've committed. So you always have to kind of keep them moving down the sales funnel and set up the next step before you finish the conversation that you're in. The goal is communicate clearly. It's really easy to forget, but never let your prospect leave without a clear next step, including a specific date and time. Follow-up is critical. So I've worked in businesses that had hundreds of salespeople. And when I asked people in other departments to guess who the highest grossing salespeople were, their guesses were usually wrong. So in my experience, the salesperson isn't the person with the perfect accent or the most beautiful, attire or the funnest to talk to. It's the person who's the most reliable, the most organized. So the key tip here is it doesn't matter what your system is or whether it looks organized to somebody else. Remember, people buy from salespeople whom they know, like, and trust. And a lot of that comes from being a person who will reliably do what you said you were going to do when you said you were going to do it. So let's see how Mavis handles this step with Monica. Mavis.
So I have an agreement from Will that he's agreed to co-sign the loan, but I need to make sure all the paperwork gets signed to secure the final commitment. Okay, Monica, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to get you over to the finance department right now, and you can work out all your payment details. I'll let them know you have a co-signer. Then I'm going to go to speak to my manager about the best way to get Will's signatures via email and other details for the loan. After that, I'll come back to the finance department and fill you in as soon as I can. How does that sound?
Sounds good.
As you close a commitment, it's important to be clear and confident. Management research about conversations like sales and interviews shows that the time that a person's most likely to say something awkward or off-putting is right at the end of the sales conversation when everybody's relaxing and getting up to leave. So make sure you keep your game face on all the way to the very end. Last step of the process doesn't really need a demo. Everybody handles rejection in their own way. However, handling rejection is a really important part of sales. One of the reasons many of us hate sales is that we just have a really hard time with no. The key tip here is no is a much better answer than maybe. When a prospect gives you a clear no, you can move on to the next prospect and invest your time in somebody who might want what you have to offer. Maybe is a tougher answer since you need to spend a lot of time on a prospect who might never really be ready to buy. So when you get rejected, console yourself that no is clear information that enables you to move on to the next prospect. And that's it. That's the whole sales process. So let's do a quick debrief in the chat. What do you want to remember from closing the sale? So objection cycle, commitment, follow-up, rejection. Was there any part of this that really resonated for you? Go ahead and put that in the chat. We've got a question also about how to deal with silences, so we'll handle that in the Q&A section soon. Yeah, follow-up and rejection, really good steps in the process. For me, the objection cycle was a real revelation because I definitely had a tendency to get defensive because I thought my offering was awesome when I had my own small business. Since our last example was a product, let's do a demo now about a service. We want to be able to see the whole process. So Mavis is going to be a salesperson again, but this time she's selling an e-commerce consulting service, since I know some of you have services. Mavis and Monica rather is going to play the role of the prospect. So she owns some candy stores and needs some e-commerce help. Now this is going to go quickly, but we'll follow along some slides so you can kind of see where we are in the process. Mavis, take it away.
Hi, Monica. I'm Mavis. I'm a founder of Commerce Consulting. I understand you know Dan.
Yes, Dan and I are neighbors. We ran into each other the other day, and he recommended that I speak with you.
That's great. I've known Dan for a really long time. We used to work at the same company. He is awesome.
He is. He's been a customer at my candy store for a long time.
Tell me about your business. It looks like you have two wonderful handmade candy stores in Boston. I've looked at your website and social media posts. It all looks delicious.
Yes, yes. Thank you.
So you have, let me make sure I understand. You've been trying to add e-commerce to your stores?
Yes, and it just doesn't seem that it's actually connecting and working at this particular time. Um,
How do
that's right.
people get your candy from you now?
Well, they call me, they email me, Facebook,
Hmm.
direct message me. I'm probably missing out on some revenue because it's an extra step for them to reach me and order.
It sounds like your business has a ton of potential, but you need to put some things in place to meet this hidden demand. I think we can help. Shall I tell you a little bit about commerce consulting?
Yes, that'll be great.
So we work with a lot of retail business owners like you. They really feel like they're missing out on possible revenue opportunities without an online commerce platform. I'm guessing that a basic Amazon or Shopify site won't do the trick. Is that right?
Yeah, well, Amazon charges just way too much for the service you get, and I can't keep my inventory at their distribution centers. I want to know that my candy is completely fresh. Shopify is just too expensive, and it has its limited customization.
Great. That's what I thought. So we can implement an e-commerce system that tracks your different SKUs, provides cart functionality, reviews, rating features, and a very straightforward, simple checkout process.
What about the site design, though?
Great question. We have a wonderful branding team, very talented, and we'll work closely with you on that, on the design. Does this sound like something that would help you with your current challenge?
Yes, definitely. So, what do you charge for this?
We do this in three phases: discovery, design, and implementation. Each phase is priced separately. The discovery phase is $5,000. The later phases depend on what comes out of the discovery process.
Um, can I get a range for the other phases? I need to know about how much I should budget for the whole project.
Sure. For similar projects, we've been able to get this done for under 75K, all in.
Oh, well, that's a big investment. So how can I be sure that I'm going to get real value from it, though?
Do you think you won't get a good return on your investment?
I guess I'm not sure how much more revenue I really would earn from online sales, but my gut says a lot, but I don't really know the numbers.
I understand. So what we can do is work with you to calculate how much more money you'll make by going online. You'll go into this project with an understanding of the revenue potential.
Yes, that's actually great.
So shall we go ahead and set a start date for the discovery phase?
I'm really in my busy season right now. I was thinking I'd wait until the business slows down a little bit and then I'd sign a contract.
I see. Well, when you start is absolutely your decision. But do you think you can really afford to wait? I mean, you can keep working this hard on your two stores without seeing additional revenue. It might be a good idea to start planning this out sooner rather than later. We could start working together on the business case as soon as tomorrow. Do you agree?
You know, you're right. I just can't keep working like this. I need to make a change.
Okay, let's fill out this non-disclosure agreement together, and this protects your confidential information. And let's book your business case meeting right now. How about tomorrow at 3 p.m.?
Perfect. I'm free at 3, so let's do it.
All right, so Mavis has achieved commitment. She set a specific date and time for the next step, so her sales conversation is officially a success. And hopefully that helps you to see the flow. That concludes our formal presentation. We hope that each of you found one or two nuggets in that sales process that will help you with your sales conversations. And as promised, here's the QR code that you can use to get the PDF takeaway. Just use that with your phone. And if you want to just use a link to get to the takeaway, here's a link. As promised, we also have an ebook, and this is the link for that ebook if you want to get that. We have plenty of time for Q&A, and so let's leave this up for just another second, and then let's take some questions. The first question that we got was in the chat as we were going, and it was from Ryan. How do you deal with silences? So, Mavis, do you want to start on that? And then Monica, I'll let you follow in.
I think that question was from Joe.
Oh, sorry, Joe. My apologies.
How do you deal with silence? So for me, usually I wait. And usually the other person gets more uncomfortable with the silence before I get too uncomfortable with the silence. And if you just look at them and smile, eventually they will fill the silence and they will ask you a question. And that question is likely to be an objection, which you can then handle once you understand what it is. So that's my answer.
Monica, anything to follow on with uncomfortable silences?
Yeah, I totally agree with Mavis in terms of, just taking the time to let the silence land, let them get in their head a little bit. And if it starts, being a real lengthy time, many times I'll ask them, what are you thinking? What are you thinking about? To try to pull it out of their head a little bit. And usually they will share with you.
Okay. All right. Don't be shy to put your questions in there because you have, two fantastic salespeople right here to answer any question you want to ask. You can ask about your particular business too. But while we're waiting, maybe
I have one more thing to add for Joe. So with silence, really, really, really try to control your urge to defend your price. So you're going to feel like this really strong desire to explain your price, defend your price, talk about why your price is actually very reasonable or really good, or you might even have an urge to just like drop the price, by 10% and just say, well, I could actually make it, less. Just try to hold it all in. And if you have to say something, then use Monica's tip of, so what are you thinking about right now? So I can tell you're mulling this over, what's your impression so far? Just try to toss it back to them if you really have to say something. That was it. Thanks, Karen.
Okay, great. Here's another question that we're commonly asked, and I'll pitch this one to you, Monica. When do you stop following up? Like you don't want to be a pest or a pain. When do you stop following up?
When they said that they don't want to have to be followed anymore.
So
Really.
you'll keep
Sometimes,
following up.
yeah, sometimes they appreciate the follow-up. Because their lives may be busy, work may be busy, or whatever the case may be. But, sometimes that persistence is what they're looking for. They're looking for the one that is hungry and caring and so forth. But you also, I think, you want to make sure that you're being conscious of their time as well, and acknowledging, hey, I know you're really busy, and so forth. I wanted to, kind of follow up on what we were speaking about. You had shared that you were concerned about da 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 da. And I want to make sure that see where you are in that.
Yeah, one of our clients on a group call the other day said, ghosting isn't no.
That's right. That's
And he
right.
had a client come back to him months later that he thought was completely dead in the water, say, okay, I'm ready to go. Like nothing had happened, like no time had passed. Okay, here's a question, another question from Joe. How many times of follow-up and what number of days in between follow-up? So what kind of cadence do you recommend for follow-up? Mavis, do you want to take that one first?
Yeah, so sometimes prospects tell me that they're going to decide in a week, or they're going to, they don't have the budget this month, but they'll have the budget next month or something like that. So I try to, before I finish the call with them, I'll say, so I'll follow up with you in about a week, or I'll follow up with you next month. And usually they say yes. So in those cases, keep to my commitment. If the person has said something like, oh, I'm going to decide tomorrow, and then you don't hear from them tomorrow or the day after that, then I will follow up much more quickly and say, hey, I'm just checking in on our conversation from Monday. You thought you would have made a decision by Tuesday. Maybe, perhaps you have other questions. I'm happy to hop on the phone and answer any other questions. And then if I still don't hear from them, I might have one more like that. And then a third one, I'll probably say, have things changed? Have you changed your mind? I'm trying to close the loop. Like if months or weeks have gone by, usually the last one will be, I'm just trying to close the loop. And at which point, usually people say, yeah, I'm going a different direction, or I'm still thinking about this. And it's not a commitment from them, but they're kind of letting you know where their head is.
And I want to add just a little bit more on that. Sometimes, once you have made an actual connection, be it in person or phone connection with them, which is kind of a higher touch, try not to go back to an email workflow that is fairly general. Try to keep it personal, because the whole object of also is to connect with them, for them to know, like, and trust you, KLT. And so you want to keep it, if you got to a point that it has been personal, you've had that personal contact, keep it there.
Yeah, it's a really good point, Monica. And I find it super helpful if you're forced to be doing email communication, if you are, or even if you leave a voicemail, say something that they said when you spoke to them live.
Mhm.
So if they said, next year is a really important year for me, I really need to get this going, or I'm really worried about X, say it in the follow-up, whether that's voicemail or whether that's, in email, and just so you say, hey, I know you're really concerned about getting going and having a big year next year. I think it's really important that we get started if you're really going to have a big year next year. And I find that works very well. People are like, oh yeah, we did have that conversation. Oh yeah, she is reminding me about my goal. And people seem to appreciate that.
Okay, so now a little bit of detail. You followed up, you're getting total radio silence. How many days before you try again as a general rule?
I don't think I have a general rule. Like,
I
I
think
think,
mine is a week. I would
okay.
never go back again before a week. Monica, do you have a rule?
Yeah, I don't have a rule either. I think it depends on what it is
Yeah.
and the conversation we've had as to whether, how frequently I go back. Um, So and that goes back with what Mavis was saying about, in the conversation you're having, asking them about the follow up and so forth.
Yeah, I mean,
When that would be good for them, for you to follow up with them.
yeah, I
They'll
mean, and
usually tell
some people, they tell you like, I'm really busy the next couple months, or the kid, they have young kids, and the kids have had 5 snow days in a row.
you.
Well,
Mm-hmm.
like following up right after that is kind of pointless. Like they've been buried, literally and figuratively, under kids being all over them for 5 straight days. So, think about the things you talked about, which kind of also points back that when you do talk to someone live, you need to learn some stuff about what's going on in their life and what their goals are for their business and how fast, what kind of pace they're on, so that you can use that later when you have to do this, when you have to close.
And it's okay to get personal, right?
Right.
Because you're building the relationship. So it's okay, in that conversation, that discovery conversation, really, showing genuine interest in them and getting to know them personally is in your best interest, because you can always have something personal to talk with them about and connect with them on that level.
Great. Great. Here's a data question. What's a good close rate? So I'll take this one. In general, it's better than whatever your previous close rate was. So you want to be measuring how many deals, how many conversations it takes you to get a win. And then you want to always be trying to improve on that. So whatever your previous rate was, try to be better than that. You can get benchmarks from your industry and see, that in your industry, people, tend to close at the following rate. If there's a data source, like a research company that does that, it's pretty hard to get that kind of information. You can ask ChatGPT, but ChatGPT makes that kind of thing up. So you want to make sure that you're not relying on that. For a services business, it usually takes 5 to 8 pitches to get a win. So that's kind of like a normal benchmark for a service business, like a consulting or something where you're selling a service to somebody. But 2025 was way worse than the average. So we saw people where they usually would take 5 pitches to get a win, requiring 10 pitches to get a win in 2025. 2025 was a very, very hard year for small business. So if you had a hard year last year, you're not alone. This year has started off a little bit better. We're seeing people get closer to their older close rates at the beginning of this year. So that's the good news. Okay, there was a question that came up earlier, and this one was from Ryan. I'm based in Boston. I sell services, and my top challenge is reaching beyond my network. And so, why don't we wrap up with this one, Mavis? How do you reach beyond your network in selling?
So this is really a question about prospecting and getting leads, and this one's always hard. Like we actually have a whole nother webinar on how to do networking with total strangers. But I would say your first thing is your network. So your network have become customers. Now you need to ask that network for introductions to other people who could become customers. And so in a way, think about using this 8-step process, this selling process. You're not selling you're selling the ask for an introduction. So the odds that you're going to meet someone in a networking event who could become a customer is pretty low, but the odds that they know someone who could become a customer is actually pretty good. And so you need to start thinking about how you talk about your business in a way that other people can say, oh, I know someone who might need that. So you need to be clear about, I want to meet the directors of XYZ types of companies or a specific industry. Do you know anyone like that? And people will say, I do, or I don't, and that's very helpful.
Awesome.
That,
Thanks.
yeah. Can I add just a little bit as well? I think one of the important things also is to be clear, so that in terms of describing your business, and that is so that they can describe your business, right? And they can champion that when they're having conversations, that they can, more easily. So keep it simple, keep it simple, and make sure that you have delivered that message to them so that so it's deliverable later on when they're talking.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, we're out of time. Thanks so much for having us, Teresa and the Boston Business Mentors. I went ahead and put a link to sign up for our newsletter. If you like this webinar and you want to be at one of our future webinars, like our awesome custom objections webinar, we'll be probably here again with the Boston Business Mentors in the future, or sign up for our newsletter and you'll never miss when our next free event is coming up. And we hope to see you again soon.
Well, thank you very much for presenting today. I know everyone's going away with a new skill set, and we'll definitely include all those links in a follow-up email to make sure in case you've missed any of them, and also the recording as well. So thank you all for joining us. Thank you to Xenagos for this wonderful presentation, and you can see all the applause coming up the screen.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.